So excited to have this guy on the podcast. I don't know if most of you know this about him, but he has run for president of the United States every single year since 1992. Known best for wearing a Tinley boot on his head, Mr. Vermin Supreme. So happy to have you on the podcast today. How are you?
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very wonderful. Thank you very much for having me on your fine podcast. Hello to all your viewers. Is the caller there?
we're not accepting any callers, but
Oh, okay, very good. Well, we can pretend.
yeah, we can pretend. Yeah, I can do different voices.
That
But
would be fun.
I guess I too am a lover of footwear very much. Like I find, like, in commuting back and forth to New York City, like your boots and your shoes are it's an important choice because I'm on my feet all day. I tend to go for like Sorel boots because they're just the quality, and they're kind of like tires. What made you settle on Tinley for your
I believe it's pronounced tingly. I'm not,
Tingly? Oh, like
you
tingles.
know, yes, of course, I could be wrong. Perhaps you are right. I've never really considered that. I know it's Tingly. I've always assumed it was tingly because
Oh, maybe you're probably right.
it feels a little tingly, really, when you get right down to it.
Yeah.
And essentially, it seems to be the boot that really fit. And you know what they say: if the boot fits, wear it for sure. And
I always thought it was like, if the boot fits, you must acquit, or
that too. If the boot fits, you must acquit and wear it for sure. And so yes, it actually belonged to my neighbor's Norwegian fisherman father, and that is how I obtained this marvelous piece of uh, footwear that I wear upon my head in a way that makes me seem as if though I'm upside down to some people. Obviously, that's not the case. I'm totally upside right. It is indeed a magical boot, a boot that has a fair amount of magic within. It is a magical boot that has allowed me to amplify my First Amendment free speech activity exponentially. It has allowed me to communicate with millions of people around the planet and interact with media across the flat earth. Of course, there is some controversy over whether there is some sort of alien entity inside the boot on top of my head, somehow controlling my thoughts, emotions, and actions. But I believe that the boot itself is the alien entity that has indeed taken the form of a boot and is nonetheless controlling my thoughts, emotions, and actions.
I also heard you have a menu inside your boot that keeps it upright.
Well, yes. I mean, you can't just constantly stroke it all the time. Yeah, sometimes it does need a little help.
No, sometimes there's kids
Staying erect.
around. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. And so there is indeed a Waffle House menu that I like to keep close to my noggin and close to my heart at all times. Of course, as a nod to the Waffle House caucus of the Libertarian Party,
Wow.
a
So much
very
symbolism.
powerful. It's a very powerful and influential caucus. It's a kingmaker caucus. It's a caucus that Spike Cohen, I believe, founded, and look where that got him. Uh,
Uh, yeah,
all
I
the way.
wanted you were running for president. Spike was your VP choice.
Indeed,
Uh, and
indeed.
then Joe Jorgensen ended up snagging the Libertarian nominee and she chose Spike now as her VP. How are you feeling about that?
Well, I feel a little sad. I must admit, I'm a little bit sad that I didn't get the nomination, of course, and I'm a little sad that I wasn't able to ride my pony all the way to the White House with Spike. But the fact that Spike has been included in a national ticket, and of course, a minor correction. I don't know if it's accurate to say that Joe actually picked Spike as a preferential choice,
Oh,
um, but the delegates, in all their wisdom, chose Spike to be the VP representative on the ticket. Of course, the LP party does indeed nominate their VP and their presidential nominees separately. And so you can run for VP or you can run for president. and ultimately the selection is up to the delegates.
Hmm.
Although when a presidential candidate expresses a very strong preference, oftentimes the delegates will go along with that. But I believe that Joe was just torn between the sheer and awesome confidence between all three candidates. John Mons, who would have been a wonderful VP, matched with her, and Ken Armstrong has that amazing voice with so much authority to it. And but the delegates, in all their wisdom, or perhaps in their humorous deviousness, chose Spike Cohen. And of course, there's been a certain amount of controversy over certain shirtless photographs that have appeared of Spike Cohen, and there was an actual, I guess we could call it Nipplegate. There was a whole lot of controversy over his, I guess it was his profile picture on Facebook or something. And I mean, once again, of course, my and Spike's, our campaign was a big part of it was trying to get the point across that the politics of respectability are overrated, if not dead, and of course, as and useless for propelling our party forward. And
It's
so,
good. You're really busting out of the mold of what people expect, their politicians to look like and sound like.
indeed, and I think even my affiliation with the LP itself caused a whole lot of people to really give it another look, give it another glance, and really have to try and recontextualize it. Yeah, I was sort of working with the hashtag, the LP. It's not what you think it is, because it's not what a lot of people think it is. This one thing, and it really is not. I mean, myself was under these misimpressions for many years, and it took me a long time to overcome these prejudices, these stereotypes of libertarians and what the Libertarian Party was, before I could actually effectively work with it. And I think a lot of people are still um, under these misimpressions, that libertarians are a bunch of selfish bastards, and they got theirs, and fuck you, good luck. And and of course, there's plenty of examples of certain individuals that do perpetuate that myth. But I mean, a lot of people understand it to be, this right-leaning monolith, and of course,
Right.
it's not. It has, a real right-left dynamic, a spectrum within the party itself, of various strains of libertarian thoughts. And I mean, when I say, "Hey, we have a libertarian socialist caucus," people are like, "What?" And it's really funny. In a very short period of time, a lot of people went from, well, that's like a banana octopus, to a few short years later to really understanding, embracing, and welcoming it as a legitimate thread of thought in the party. Of
Yeah,
course,
and it's because I myself didn't know very much about the Libertarian Party. I met Larry Sharp in 2018. He was running for the governor of New York, and I only got to know him because my boyfriend's brother was helping with his campaign, and none of us are raised to like even know what the Libertarian Party does. It's like you're just brought up to be like left or right, blue or red. You have to pick a side, and I think that's absolutely where the problem starts. You're growing up to think that there's no other option other than the right or the left, and so that's how I kind of came to learn about like libertarian ideology, and I was like, oh wow, this is starting to really align more closely with my like adult beliefs. Like I definitely had my phase in college where I was like going to protests. I didn't even know what I was protesting, but I was going because all my friends
sure,
told me that
sure.
was the
Well,
right move, and that's what made me a good
freedom
person.
of assembly is always, freedom of
Yeah.
assembly and speech are always very important things to exercise, even even if you're not very clear on what it is. But
Yeah.
just the mere fact of assembling, I believe, is very important.
So my concern is that like the majority of the publics might see the Libertarian Party as somewhat of a joke, because if people obviously are not going to look into the meaning of why you wear a boot on your head. People will will see you and the beard, and they'll immediately discount you as a not a serious candidate. You know, and then you also have Howard Stern ran for New York State governor in '94. Joe Exotic ran in the Libertarian
Yeah.
Party for
Although
20.
his positions weren't particularly libertarian, a lot of his.
No, he didn't know where to go. He didn't know what to do. He
I
asked
mean,
the
the
guy at
fact
the
of the matter
comic
is,
book store where he should run, and
yes, I mean, a lot of people, you know, claim the phrase libertarian. And I believe that many people who think they're libertarian just really aren't necessarily libertarian, or they certainly don't espouse the values that are put forth by the Libertarian Party. And of course, if your viewers are not familiar with, please check out lp.org/platform. You know, when I was running, you know, I was representing the party platform under my belief that if you're, you know, representing a party, you should absolutely represent what they stand for, and that is fully encapsulated in the platform itself. And there's a lot there. You know, I mean, I come from a left anarchist perspective. I cut my teeth on Kropotkin and all of these things, and certainly ran with the red and black on the streets because they were certainly the anti-authoritarian bloc. And that's, you know, my main reason I would, because once again, in the demonstrations, you know, you don't really have a gold bloc. You don't have a yellow and black, a whole bunch of masked anti-authoritarians behind the libertarian banner, but you do in fact have the red and black, sort of the social, the anarcho alliance. And when you see them on the street, you can be damn sure that they are going to be engaging or mixing it up with the police, or perhaps engaging in symbolic property destruction. And so when I saw that block, I always felt compelled to run interference with, or run with, just to see what would happen, and see what I could help facilitate any a resolution to any hairy shit that might go on.
do you feel like when you were younger, you might have been enticed into an Antifa type group, maybe in your younger years?
Well, once again, I mean, the black bloc is a tactic. It's not a group per se. It's a constantly changing thing, as is Antifa. You know, Antifa is a very broad heading. It's sort of an umbrella. It involves a whole lot of activity. I mean, I think if you want to, you know, target a specific act, you know, a certain thing that is not cool, like you know, taking you know, bicycle locks to your opponent, or overt violence. You know, I certainly don't stand for that in any way, shape, or form. I certainly do endorse and have endorsed other anti-fascist activities that are, you know, anything short of violence, essentially. I mean, I believe that there's a lot of nonviolent direct action, a lot of nonviolent protests. You know, I'm very, you know, I have a lot of nuance and subtlety to my understanding of political violence. I've certainly been around the block. I don't condone it. I don't appreciate it. But I have to acknowledge that it exists. And of course, I spent a lot of my career trying to minimize the potential for violence in street protests. But it's traditionally been the police that have been the folks who cause the violence, or create the violence, or you know, instigate the crowd into actions that they would not have engaged in if they
Really?
had been
Wow.
pepper sprayed or tear gassed. I mean, you know, just the arrival of riot police really sets people off. I mean, I personally find it offensive, and I know others do too, that they come out rolling out like they are ready to rumble. I mean,
So you think their presence makes everything worse? It drums up more violence. It drums up more chaos. You think?
in the right. I mean, I've been in situations like where there's you know, there's lines of cops, and over on that side of the street are their soft hats. They're not in riot gear. They're just cops, and you know, whatever. And on the other side of the street, there's riot cops. Now, which side attracts the aggressive, the protesters who find it such an affront to their ability to exist? It's the riot cops, and they it's like over there regular cops, over there riot cops, but the riot cops become the magnets.
Hmm.
Some of the things I like to do when I find myself in a situation when there's riot cops, I know that they're not going to attack generally unless ordered to do so. So I sort of treat them as a captive audience. And I like to sort of try and train them up and propagandize them. And I will read excerpts from crowd control manuals. And some of these, crowd control manuals, like there's this FBI segment that I like to read to them that talks about how there's a protest and the police feel they need to do something, and they send in the riot cops, and they have their shields, and and without any real plan after that, the shields inevitably become missile magnets, and so
Huh.
then people do throw things at them, and then all of a sudden they feel like they have to respond. All hell breaks loose because they have no real contingency plan other than a show of force and violence.
Interesting.
uh, I mean, in many situations, if it's a peaceable assembly and there's an absence of police, it continues to be completely peaceable.
Yeah. What are
But
your feelings on CHAZ? The Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. Do you think they have a chance to do some real good, or are they just doomed because they're seen doing ridiculous things like trying to plant plants on dirt on top of newspaper?
well, I mean, everything we do is symbolic in a sense. When the people come together, that is symbolic of our desire to petition the government for a redress of our grievances. When the riot police show up, that is symbolic of the state's willingness and ability to use violence to get their way. The CHAZ is a wonderful thing simply because it exists. Simply because I'm a big fan of, as an anarchist, the idea of a temporary autonomous zone where the people can totally take over space and liberate it. I've been attending the rainbow gatherings. Are you familiar with the rainbow gatherings?
I'm not. Is it an LGBT thing?
No, it is not. It is although we are certainly welcoming to them, and there are fairy camps and all that. Essentially, it is the Rainbow Family of Living, Love, and Light gathering of the tribes. It's an annual event that's been occurring on a national forest land for uh, in 2022. It'll be a 50 years of gathering, and I've been at gathering with this crew for probably over 30 years now. And essentially, every year, 7,000, 10,000, or 20,000. I'll say hippies, but it's a lot more than just hippies.
Free
Get
thinkers.
free thinkers gather in the woods, and essentially it operates like, imagine, if you will, 4,000 people sitting in concentric circles in the middle of this big meadow, miles and miles away from nowhere. They all have a cup and a spoon because that's the way we do it, and they're waiting for dinner. All of a sudden, from out of the woods, from 100 different kitchens, comes hippies gather with 5-gallon buckets of food, and they start feeding the people. And then the town criers come, and they go around the circle, and they give out important health and safety information, and lost children reports, or different talent shows that are going on that night. And then the Magic Hat goes around, and the Magic Hat, because it's a non-commercial event and people cannot spend or buy anything at the event, they can only throw their money into the Magic Hat collection. And so it's a spiritual money laundering, if you will. So the hat goes around, people put their money in the hat. It goes to the middle of the circle where the banking council is. They count the money. They make an announcement what the take was for the night. Anybody can join the banking council. It's totally open. The banking council connects with the supply council. The supply council meets up with the kitchen council, where 100 representatives from all the kitchens come together and go over their shopping lists and any issues that they might need taken care of and things like that. Supply goes to town, comes back with the food, distributes it to the kitchen, and it repeats itself over and over again for about 2 weeks. There's miles and miles of water pipe. The springs are tapped. The kitchens have water. It's somewhere between Gilligan's Island and the Flintstones sort of technology. And there are, talent shows and roving minstrels and just all sorts of amazing things, workshops, skill shares, um, and anything that happens. And there's a lot of things that need to happen. I mean, vegetables need to be cut, shitters need to be dug, stoves need to be built, water needs to be hauled, firewood needs to be collected. And things happen because people see the need and they come together and make it happen. It's a leaderless environment. There are no hierarchies. Everything is horizontal, and it is an anarchistic organism, although it does not identify as such. But it is where I learned everything that I know about living in an anarchistic environment. And it's one of the many things that we provide. One of the many services is also security. And that is where I was able to, the first few years, first year you get a pass. First several years, I was learning to be a better clown and doing
I think
entertainment
it worked.
and
Yeah.
stage work. And then I started doing more security issues and bringing in the humor and the clowning into crisis intervention situation.
Okay.
And then we do a cop walk. And so, for many years, I would walk, half a dozen to 10 troopers or stadies through the gathering and use that time to propagandize them, warn the hippies of their imminent arrival so they could hide their drugs and shit,
Mm-hmm.
and make fun of the cops, have fun with the cops, and dispel a lot of tension. And
Okay.
and that is where I learned that skill and was able to bring that out into riot world, if you will.
Okay.
And
But
so, yeah.
that's great. And these are good skills. And I'm sure wherever this, I don't know, it's not called the Unicorn Festival. I've already forgotten what it's
Oh,
called.
it's the Rainbow Gatherings.
Rainbow Gatherings. Same idea. I'm sure that is on land that is sort of purpose for that. I think that's a much different situation than CHAZ, which is like they have occupied U.S. soil. They have sort of
Well, I'll
fragmented
say that the
businesses
gatherings take place in national forest land.
Okay.
And they a different one every year. And the government has been in an adversarial position for many years, tried to outlaw the gatherings. They put in permit schemes. So there have been actual years where the gathering itself was one of the largest civil disobedience actions going on, where people were violating the regulations and the letter of the law to freely assemble, because we believe that the U.S. Constitution is the only permit that is required for people to assemble.
So do you think it's justified that the CHAZ people are holding these businesses hostage, basically, and these residences, and they're taking up all these blocks and businesses can't open, people can't live their lives that live nearby? Do you think that's justified?
I don't know enough about the individuals who may or may not be inconvenienced by such. I'm a big believer in supporters of the rights of assembly and speech, overriding other certain things at certain times. Yes, I am a proponent of people being, once again, I mean, speech and nonviolent speech, sometimes it's not always legal. Sometimes it's illegal, but I believe, if we want to peaceably assemble by the letter of the law that's granted to us by the U.S. Constitution, especially in a public space, yes, if we need to do that in the middle of a street, then I believe that we are constitutionally protected to do so, because it is a public street, it is a public space. Now, once again, there is a potentially incredible inconvenience, but I have always maintained that it should be seen contextually as the equivalent of a construction project that might have shut that street down, or a vehicular accident that may have shut that street down, or a street festival that might have shut that street down. And really, ultimately, it's all about making a detour to go around that particular situation. And once again, that's simply my take. And what about the ambulances? I think they can be detoured. I think that if the cops cooperate with assembly, then they should help facilitate such activities. So I will say that I believe that the temporary autonomous zone, known as CHAZ, has every right to take over the streets and the sidewalks. I suppose they don't have the rights to take over people's properties per
And for
se.
how long? And for how long is it okay? Because I think it's already been, God, at least a week or so.
I don't know. That's a very interesting question. I suppose ultimately, for as long as they can possibly hold out doing such a thing. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, at least they didn't burn the police station down. Am I right?
And I want to know, what are your thoughts on that? Because there's a lot of talk right now, mostly from the left, about defunding and reforming the police in many cities. We're already starting to see some.
That's a very fine topic that should be open for discussion. I don't see anything inconsistent from a libertarian position. The libertarian position is one of anti-authoritarianism. We've been talking about reforming the laws forever, making a lot less laws because, of course, the reason the police get involved in so many situations that turn bad or violent or ugly or just put people in jail are a result of victimless crimes, oftentimes victimless non-violent crimes, much like Eric Garner selling some loose cigarettes, and
Right.
that he ended up getting killed. Um, and so, if there wasn't that particular law against selling cigarettes, I mean, so what? Possession of marijuana, just
Yeah,
the
big
fact that
deal.
people get pulled over, people have certainly been murdered or thrown in jail for that pretext. And so, yes, libertarians believe that there are far too many laws governing consensual economic activities that alone would lower things. I believe that it's safe to say that we support the demilitarization of the police. We definitely support the ending of qualified immunity. Justin Amash, Libertarian Congress person, has just put forth that legislation in an attempt to end the essentially get out of jail insurance policy that police have that covers their misconduct, that allows them to act with impunity, with no regard for the consequences,
Hmm.
because it's covered, because they personally will not suffer as a result of their excessive actions.
It's
So,
also hard to. It's also so easy to say after the fact, oh wow, it wasn't 100% necessary for him to shoot. The cops don't have the benefit of after the fact. They're in the moment. I forget the guy's name, but it was the shooting in Atlanta where the guy took the cop's taser, was trying to shoot him in the head with it.
well, once
And the
again,
cop
let's
shot
say
him.
the police knew that the gentleman attempted to fire the taser. The taser is only good for one shot. I mean, he had already shot that wad. At that point, he had a useless piece of crap in his hand. It
Hmm.
was useless, and the police knew that, and they shot him in the back. Now, when you can't, if you shoot somebody in the back, I would have to say, at the very least, that is poor sportsmanship.
Hmm.
And in this particular instance, the grand jury or the DA decided that it constituted murder. And so shooting somebody in the back when they could have chased him down, or they could have just put out a warrant for his arrest, or chased him around with a helicopter all night, or headed him off
True, but
the pass.
it's
Um,
also possible that he could have had another weapon on him. I don't know. Do you think the cops knew for a fact that he didn't have something else like a gun on him? It's hard to say.
I know they shot him in the back twice.
Hmm.
I mean, who knows? I mean, I believe that there are many police officers who are hotheads. I mean, you see these cops who they after a high speed chase or something, and the person gets out of the car and they just beat the shit out of them.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
I believe once again, a basic tenet of law enforcement is minimal use of force to effect the arrest. Anything greater than the minimal amount of force required to obtain that objective is by definition excessive force. Now, I understand that there's, escalation of force. Yes, I mean, if the officer hits you and you hit him back, he's going to do something a little more harsh, and it's going to escalate up. I
Yeah, and
understand
he
that's part of
resisted arrest like pretty aggressively, grabbed his taser, ran off. He definitely wasn't complying.
that's true. But on the other hand,
He didn't deserve
and
to
once again, I don't
die, of
know the
course.
full details. I don't know
Yeah.
where he was sleeping in his car. Was he really blocking traffic? I mean, could
Yeah,
have went
supposedly he was asleep in his car in the Wendy's drive-through.
in the drive-through, which is certainly inconvenience. Certainly inconvenience.
People have to get their Frosties. It's
Yeah,
prime munchie time.
very true. Very true. So once again, hindsight and speculation is always 2020. And
Yeah.
once again, we weren't there. We don't know the exact details. I haven't even watched the video. Uh,
Oh, okay.
so I'm just talking about what little I know in my gut feeling in the situation, and the fact he was shot twice in the back, and that he was charged with murder as a result of doing that. I can only assume that that was against departmental regulation and best practices. Otherwise, he would not have been arrested for murder. Otherwise, he would have been placed on administrative leave like every other damn cop.
Right. What I find interesting is there's such a intense tribalism among the two parties. Like I remember in 2016, like I straight up lost friends just because they thought my boyfriend and I voted for Trump, which we didn't. We both voted third party, but it's really amazing to me. Like this was not something that was really part of the culture. I don't know, even like 8-10 years ago. What would you attribute that to? This kind of like really intense, like, are you on our side or are you a Nazi? You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's it's the whole sports equivalency. It's the team. It's like what team is your best team? And like sometimes you see people watch sports and they get very excited and they get very over the top and emotionally invested with an event or something that really has no effect on their life and no bearing on their life. And ultimately, if they lived in a different city, it might be a different team. So,
Right.
um, and of course, I think the internet has certainly had a lot to do with a lot of things, for better or worse. But I think in a lot of senses, it's made the problem worse. And I think Mr. Trump himself and his amazing knack for finding division or playing what he believes to be what will he likes to troll people. Let me put it that way. He's a very good troll, and trolling is really cheap. Trolling
Hmm.
when it's done wrong it's one up from a horrible prank phone call, because what trolls do is they try to get you upset, and it's usually
Wouldn't you
easy
say
to.
that the liberal media is exactly trying to do that to Trump? They'll come into these press conferences with questions specifically aimed to upset him, to get these gotcha moments for clips, just so that sort of focus can be on that journalist. Like, oh, I made Trump look bad. I got him to say this or that. Like to me, it feels like he is just responding to what's been coming at him his whole presidency.
Perhaps, but I mean, he's always been a very combative, full of himself character, and I think the fact that he somehow got into office is just really pushing it to unimaginable heights. I think it's Shakespearean in nature, how over the top it is. And yeah, the media certainly has always had that component. They really they are combative also, yes. And but inevitably the echo chambers and the extremes that people are going to, and it's unfortunate. It's not real pretty. It's a real problem in society, I do believe.
I like that you call Trump over the top when you have a boot on your head and you currently have no shirt on and you're wearing a tie.
Oh yes. Well, once again, I only pretend to be a crazy person.
Oh, really? I would say a lot of people would look at you and assume you are crazy and
Well,
maybe even write you off, you
I
know,
do.
and maybe they
That
shouldn't.
is that is true, and of course, that is something that I had to fight against during my campaign for the nomination. I had to convince people that, once again, boot not attached to my head, not my character. There's very different things going on, and I've always believed that most people tend to get it. I think they get the subtextual message of a mandatory toothbrushing law. I mean, up in New Hampshire, 2016, if you type in Vermin Supreme and Ted Cruz, I had an encounter with Ted Cruz where he understood what a mandatory toothbrushing law actually meant. He understood that it was a nanny state reference. He understood that it was talking about making things laws and punishment, and he actually brought it into his speech. He essentially took it for exactly the commentary and satire element that it is, and then deconstructed it. When I had my Christie encounter, I asked him, do you support free ponies? He said, no. I'm like, well, you're anti-pony, pony hater. But later on in the encounter, it's like, Christie, why do you hate free ponies? He said, I don't hate free ponies. No, I don't hate ponies. I hate free ponies. You have to earn your pony.
Okay. And not everyone has a space for a pony.
Yes, and the fact that I've been in 2012 is when I introduced the idea of free ponies on the national stage, and then just a few short years later, the phrase "free pony" was in the political vernacular, whereas the media itself was using the phrase "free pony" to describe exactly what it was that I was talking about.
Okay.
Politicians promising you free things. So yes, a certain segment of literalists don't get it. I believe that obviously many people do. And 20% of the Libertarian Party delegates fully understood it to the point where they supported my nomination.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a communication strategy, absolutely. And but if I was just a normal looking person with a normal suit, talking normal takes on subjects on the street corner, it would be extremely forgettable, easily dismissible. I could even be talking, just as intelligently, just as cogently as I am right here, right now. But if it weren't for the boot, the boot is
Right.
what has given me a level of notoriety, an audience, and a viewership that makes me interested enough that you care to speak to me on your podcast.
So you would rather risk being seen as a joke than not being remembered at all?
Well, it's in on the joke. Hashtag in on the joke was in fact one of our working title slogans, and we needed because I was not out to make the Libertarian Party a joke. No, I was out to troll America with and on their behalf. It was not a goof on the LP. I was offering my services as a person who could have done a lot with that opportunity in terms of promoting the libertarian message and attracting more media than we would have known what to do with.
It's also, but I think again, right, for the specific group of people, it is possible they see you and they think of the whole Libertarian Party as a joke, especially considering people like Howard Stern and Joe Exotic and Jesse Ventura have also run in the Libertarian Party. So I sometimes
But of course,
worry that
there's been hundreds of people who have run not funny campaigns. There's been dozen presidential candidates put forth by the Libertarian Party. Not one of them a joke, other than Gary Johnson sticking out his tongue or having a little bit of fun. part of my offer and attraction was to the kids, because the kids got it.
Right, the college students, yeah.
The kids understood that, and
Mhm.
you know, there's 3.9 million high school kids graduate a year. Give me 2 of those years, add the 17 million college kids, that's 25 million voters. And if I was able to get 1 out of 4 of them, that would have equaled the 5%. So you know, I was going after a very specific segment of the population, and you know, once again, I mean, I wasn't in it to win it. I was going to run a campaign as if we were in it to win it. But ultimately, you know, my understanding and interpretation of what would have been successful would have been, you know, that 5%. It would have been, you know, bringing in a lot of young people and spreading the word of liberty. Um, so, you know, I mean, would I have won the presidency? Is the current nominee, Joe Jorgensen, going to be elected president? The odds are against that. The duopoly has a lock on it. You know, many people are dismissive of the Libertarian Party itself without any of the perceived wacky people involved,
Mm.
just because of what they put forth.
Do you ever worry that if you are, like, say these young kids, like if you are someone's first impression of the Libertarian Party, is there part of you that worries that they will see the party as a joke if you're their first
You know,
impression?
I've got to say, I am not worried about it at all. It's not a concern of mine. It's not a worry of mine.
Okay.
I, you know, I believe that, you know, it's incumbent upon the duopoly to overcome the deficit. I mean, if we were going to bring in a certain percent and the Dems can't overcome that, you know, that's their fault, their problem.
Yeah.
You know, do I believe that the LP has difficulties putting forth the message of what exactly they are and represent to enough people so it makes a difference?
Yeah.
Um, you know, that's a possible concern. I mean, if they, but part of my sale was, you know, the Libertarian Party was going to have to own the joke in a Supreme candidacy. It was, you know, yes, we are the Libertarian Party. We are a serious party. We stand for very serious things and have been accomplishing things piece by piece. However, the current duopoly electoral system has risen to the level of a joke. And with love and with spite, here is Vermin Supreme. Fuck off. And so it was just an offer of a very alternative type of messaging. And I believe that if the LP was to own the joke, then they would not be considered that joke. You know, I
Mm.
mean, can a serious party put up a candidate who was perceived as a joke candidate? I argued yes. Now, once again, of course, if I was not me, I would have probably questioned it myself.
Hmm.
I would have said, really? That guy with the boot on his head? I don't know if that's a really good idea. But because I am that guy, you know, I had no choice but to really lay out the arguments in favor of. And once again, it wasn't just me. It wasn't just a lark. You know, I've been running a pretend candidacy for, you know, close to 30 years. But it was the supporters in the LP. It was my campaign staff. I mean, we had 20, 30 people,
Yeah.
principled libertarians, one and all, from the left side and from the right side, working together with under the belief that that it was indeed the best way to propel the party forward into the future by using the meme culture,
Hmm.
by you know, bringing in the kids and not simply appealing to all these you know, Republicans that might not be thrilled with Trump.
Right.
Um, you know, my candidacy, my offer of a candidacy was legitimate, and it was perceived legitimate by a sizable portion of the LP that
Oh
was,
yeah. You went to all the meetings. You did all. You jumped through
oh,
all the
yeah,
necessary hoops.
debates. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you know, it was my first real actual campaign with actual goals and real strategic considerations. We raised more money in that one year than I had spent on every previous campaign combined.
Wow.
Um, and so now it's sort of nice to be back to a pretend level because now I'm pretending to be seeking the Republican nomination, and I'm going to soon be pretending to seek the Democratic nomination. I was considering pretending to seek the Green Party nomination, but I'm afraid I might win that one. So because I have made a pledge to not run a general election campaign as an independent against Joe Jorgensen, and so I want to stand by that pledge. But this, running pretend against the other parties, well, that's a loophole. Yay.
Yeah, that's good. What are your thoughts on Joe Jorgensen, and what is next for you then?
Well, I believe Joe Jorgensen is a wonderful candidate. I believe that she offers a lot, and her meme game is indeed improving. So there is that. She started out with sort of boomer friendly memes, and I think working a little bit towards a better meme game. I think her social media game is awesome. Her Twitter game is great. Her Facebook game is great. And yes, and it's very sad with the whole COVID thing. It did sort of derail the whole convention process.
Yeah.
Things were looking very interesting. So it's going to be very tricky for her to accomplish the goals that she has set for herself. But I do trust that she has surrounded herself with a campaign team and staff that will help her accomplish those goals. And of course, she's got my VP, old Spike Cohen, in there to keep her honest.
Do you endorse her?
I have indeed endorsed Joe Jorgensen. Yes, it's only political to do so, by golly.
I think it's great what you're doing. I think you're one of the bravest voices out there. I think it's actually harder to keep going with it. You know what I mean? Like there might be some days where you just don't want to put it on your head, I think you're a very brave voice.
I mean, the full year of campaigning it wasn't a roller coaster per se. I mean, it had its moments of ups and downs, but it was a more stressful campaign. In the olden days, the most stressful thing I do would go up and wrangle riot cops. But there were some debates where I would go in there and it's like, I just wish this thing was over. I would quickly count the candidates. I would figure out how long the debate was. I would divide the candidates by how much time we had. I would figure out how many questions we had coming. I was just, I just wasn't fully there. I was wishing I was definitely somewhere else. It was like every weekend for like 3 months, it was going to a different city to attend a different libertarian convention. It was just, it got to be a little bit, it was wonderful meeting all my new friends and talking that game, but it wasn't my first love, if you will. It wasn't me being as goofy as I would like to have been.
It's like the homework part of it,
Yes, I mean, it was all practically this a new character, a new facet of the character. It's serious, Vermin.
Yeah.
Well, hello there. Let's talk about libertarianism, shall we? And
Vermin, Vermin in a suit. What do you think it would take to break up the duopoly? Because I feel like I hear the same thing every year. Oh, libertarianism sounds nice, but not this election. This election is too important. It seems that we hear that every 4 years.
Every damn one is the most important election ever, and I think it will ultimately take a deciding vote, a resounding victory defined by a regional, building off of Gary Johnson's 4-point percent. If we can steadily continue growing that, it may take a while. But once again, now we have a libertarian in Congress, so it's going to take that. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of candidates for various positions. It will take local representation, and of course ultimately it's arguable that a lot of people have a much more impact in their local environments and working locally with their city and town councils and state representatives and things of that nature have a more immediate effect and impact, and are more accessible in terms of resources. I mean, running a Senate or a national campaign of any sort requires such vast resources to do it successfully. And that is, and even that's not an equalizer, given the lock that the duopoly, the old parties have on the system itself. You know, at this moment in time, even with the COVID really screwing with the ability of candidates to collect enough signatures for ballot access.
Wow.
And some states, you know, allowing, you know, knocking down the requirements required, or extending the time required. You know, democracy is a stacked deck, unfortunately. And so, what will it take to destroy the duopoly? That's a good question. Let's see. I'd say a good Vermin Supreme candidacy in 2024 would probably do about that. Having me up there on the stage with a few of those candidates.
Or you could go back in time and kill baby Republican Party and baby Democratic Party.
Oh, yes, yes. It's just about creating a juggernaut, a movement, an unstoppable moment in time.
So let's say, Vermin, let's say you get elected president. In a miracle world situation, you get
Well,
elected
once again,
president.
my time schedule puts me in 2036 is when
Okay.
I've been looking at, essentially because my stock is slowly, gradually rising. America's stock slowly sinking, and it's going to meet right in the middle. And that's at 2036.
Just like that girl in high school who peaked and now she's in her 30s and you have a shot at her. Besides
Absolutely.
ponies, what are the first things you would do as president?
Well, once again, it depends on the speculative nature of the hypothetical question that we are engaging. Um, should it be completely facetious along the lines of, well, everybody's going to get that? Well, first I got to take a few days off. Hell's bell! It was going to be a hell of a campaign. I'm all
You'll be
hungover
stressed out.
yeah, big campaign. I got to get briefed. I got to have the CIA show me the unredacted Zapruder film. You know, get told what the deal is. Have the CIA say, you know, oh, well, yeah, sure, Vermin, you'd love to do all those things, but you're not going to be able to do any of those things.
Learn about the aliens.
Yeah. Oh no, you can't close Guantanamo. No. And here's the aliens, and here's why. Yes, you can clap their cheeks, but you can't tell anybody about it. So yes, it could be about creating the Pony Federal Reserve, and bringing forth the iPony Blueprint for a New America, my book, to fruition.
Oh, wow.
Forming the secret dental police, all of those things.
Is this out now, this book?
Oh, this book is so totally out. Oh, yes. This is iPony Blueprint for a New America. It is a book. It's about the future long after a Vermin Supreme presidency.
Wow.
After everybody has their pony, after zombie power fuels the nation, after time travel is used in a daily basis, and after the secret dental police have set up checkpoints every couple hundred yards in order to make sure that you and your children are safe. And it essentially is a warning from the people of the future to you, the people of their past, your present, that Vermin Supreme
Oh, wow.
is a madman and must be stopped.
Look at those illustrations.
Oh, yes.
Wow. Very graphic.
Like about 15 different artists represented in this. It's essentially a picture book, practically. And it's got all sorts of wonderful things.
Wow.
Let's see what else.
This is very exciting. For anybody who's listening to this just on audio, you're really missing out. This is a real treat for the eyes here.
Well, we will have an audiobook version of it coming out
in
the future. If you go to iPonythebook.com or iPonybook.com, that will take you to this amazing, wonderful book. I can't say enough about it. Of course, I wrote it. So I guess I don't want to toot my own horn so
Shoot
much.
away. You're here
But
to
the
toot.
artists are amazing. I mean, check that out.
Oh my gosh.
That's a
Wow. That's something.
that's an
Yeah.
actual
Very
illustration of a zombie turbine.
apocalyptic.
That's how they work, people.
Vermin, do you think we're headed towards a Nasara Jasara situation? Are you thinking it might be the end of the Fed soon? Wow, that's good. That's a good picture.
Yeah, well, we could do the end of the federal. There's my head in a jar.
I love it.
End of the federal government, you're saying, or the Federation, or the galactic fleet? What are we talking about here? What level of reality are we involved in right now? I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna come. Wow. Okay.
Pony erotica, people.
That's
There
2
is
horses
pony
having
erotica
sex
in the
with
book.
human bodies.
Yes.
That's very.
And I am the only candidate who has released their dental records.
Oh, good. You know, it's good. We need to know that. Yeah.
And I do have exciting merch available. If you go to Vermin Supreme 2020, you will see, like, we have little pins.
Oh, it's like your pin. Yeah.
Face and keychains with a stylized logo of my face.
You almost look like a friendly little yard gnome.
And the Vermin Supreme 2020 bumper stickers are still available because
now. Yeah, they're retro now.
Well, no, it's still my name and it's still the year.
Okay, so that's true.
They're still accurate. And of course, my other car is a pony.
That's great.
People like that. And so, yeah, verminsupreme2020 is .com is the website. Oh, and of course, whoisverminsupreme.com is the classic documentary. You want to check that out. So we got the book, we got the documentary. On Facebook, Vermin Supreme for President, Blue Check Official, at Vermin Supreme on Twitter, at the real Vermin Supreme on TikTok. Over like
wow, TikTok, good for you.
Vermin Supreme hashtags have close to 3 million hits on them.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty impressive. And I neglect them all the time, but still they really like me to that tune.
Good. I'm not surprised. The fans want to know, so we got a couple rapid fire questions.
Sure.
Just your favorite things. Okay, what's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? It's got to be Brazil, probably. I'd say Brazil's right up there.
Favorite restaurant?
Favorite restaurant?
Or type of food?
Waffle House. I've given you a political answer. It's the Waffle House.
Okay. Favorite band?
Favorite band? Gang of Four.
Ooh, okay. Who are some of your favorite comedians? Myself excluded.
Richard Pryor, Bill Hicks, George Carlin. Along those lines, people who real fucking tear it up.
Yes, I love it, Vermin. Oh, and also I wanted to talk to you about, so you went on my buddy's show, Gino and Aaron, you went on In Hot Water on Compound Media. What happened there with you guys?
Oh, that.
Did you guys not get along? I didn't hear the whole story.
Well, what happened was they invited me onto their broadcast.
In Hot Water, which is a kooky, crazy show.
Yes, kooky and crazy. And for some reason, I wasn't able to make, because a lot of times, I mean, let's face it, I space on fucking these media appearances occasionally, and they have to get rescheduled. Am I right? Yeah,
it happens. Yeah,
it happened. I think
a big deal.
I think we've all been there. No, but I space things out sometimes, and so they did some wacky little bit where they took my photograph and they put in somebody else's mouth.
Oh yes, they do that from time to time.
And they started talking about as if I were a homeless person, how I lived on a New York subway car and made some sort of beverage out of my own urine and oranges and things of that nature.
Okay.
And that's, okay, that's wacky. I'm not really familiar with their show or whatever, but they wanted me on their show. And so then I saw that and I said, that is a very interesting and unique way to show someone that you care enough about them that you want them on your your program where you're making money off other people who are giving you money to watch your show. And so you know, I mean, fine. I don't mind going uncompensated on shows. I mean, it's the nature of media. People, you know, have a need for content,
Yeah,
and
none of the guests ever get paid to
and
be
yeah,
on
I
the
mean, yeah,
show.
it's very
Yeah.
seldom, but you know, but in a perfect world, of course, all the people who are producing podcasts get enough through their patrons and sponsors and whatever to make a go of it, because you know, artists should get paid, of course.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah.
And so I won't say that I did not take just a little bit
You're a
offense
little offended.
at their
Okay.
presentation, and more so, you know, it was their attitude towards homeless people. I felt it
Hmm.
was offensive and reprehensible and disgusting and
Hmm.
horrible, and fuck that shit. And if you know,
Well, they
if
have
that's
made
what
fun of lots of people, and I think it's their way of kind of showing love or attention. I don't think it was ever, maliciously
oh,
intended.
that's fine. Once again, you know, I'm a big guy. I'm a public figure. People can do whatever they want as a meme, and you know, I can't say I've ever been taken in that direction. And you know, once again, it wasn't so much that it. Well, once again, it was just weird. It's like, come on our show, Vermin. Here you are talking about drinking your own piss. I mean, I don't see why anybody would really think that would be a way to attract someone to want to come on to your uh, program, quite frankly. I mean, it would be like, hey, hi, would you like to be on my show? And then I cut out your face and have you talking fucking crazy, horrible stuff. And
Yeah.
then, oh, I'm sorry you couldn't make last week. Do you think you could make this week? So yeah, so I did want pretty much nothing to do with them, but I did want to tell them to fuck off. And so yes, I did go on to the show, you know, as I was programmed, and no, I had my camera taped over because fuck them, they already had a picture of me, and just simply wanted to tell them that to fuck off.
Hmm.
So it's really quite simple. I mean, I hope I didn't draw out into a long
Oh no, not at
winding
all. I think what
story.
happens sometimes is on these shows you leave a certain amount of time for a certain guest, and then when they don't show up, well, they probably figured, well, let's make it seem like he's on the show anyway, and we'll just talk, over
Sure.
his
No,
face. But yeah.
no. I mean, I think it came down to my media team not fully vetting the media source. That's all. It happens.
Aw. Well, I hope you had a little more fun on my show, Vermin. I really enjoyed having you on.
No, it's been lovely. It's been fun. It's been fine. I just really like the post nomination format where I'm not trying to run for anything and not trying to convince you that I'm the best candidate or any of that shit. So that's I feel really nice and relaxed about that
Good.
part of it. And of course I'm wondering, well, why am I still relevant? Why does anybody care to hear about me? But I know some people do. People you know, ascribe different levels of import to what I do, and like you say, a lot of people just think it's really stupid and it's a joke. But a lot of people do get that there's a lot more going on there, and those are the people that I think are my fan base that enjoy what I do. They are my constituents. You know, I have real constituents, and a lot of what I do is on behalf of my constituents, because either they can't do it, don't have the wherewithal, or just would never do it, but they have an appreciation
Yeah.
for the fact that I'm out there to do it, and I find it so much fun and so enjoyable, and you know, it gives me such a leeway and freedom to be able to do almost anything. You know, it's like a license to be a superhero in a lot of ways.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
you know, respectability out the window, and that, you know, like I could call up that other, you know, that other show and tell them to fuck off. Oh, I think I was a candidate then, but still, now I'm totally unrestrained.
You're loose. Yeah, unchained.
Look at me! I'm doing my
Wow.
nipple stuff. Whoa!
You audio listeners are missing out on some sweet nipples right now.
Yeah,
Some sweet
that's.
Vermin
Oh, and
nipples.
yeah, look for my OnlyFans coming
Oh,
soon.
good. I was wondering if you had an OnlyFans.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
that was that
well,
was just a little taste.
little tease.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you. Vermin, thanks for coming on the show. Everybody, please check out verminsupreme2020.com. Follow Vermin on Twitter. Instagram, TikTok, all of the things.
I forgot to tell you about the Vermin Supreme Institute. That's
Oh my
new.
God, you have an institute.
It's a real thing. It's a 501c4, and we are going to be doing stuff. We don't know what we're doing with it yet, but we'll know. But it's the Vermin Supreme Institute, and you put those 3 words together, and it sounds totally legitimate. And it is. I didn't want to let the show go without saying it. But
good. I'm glad we remembered that. All right, Vermin, thank you so much for coming on the show, buddy. Hope to see you soon.
All right, thank you. And say hi to your friends for me. And,
I will. I will. I'll give them your message.
Tell them to fuck off.
I will tell them again. Yes.
All right. Peace out. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.